All right, part two. I've got my bolts out here and here. What I've done, I've taken the C-bolts out and just kind of folded the plastics down out of the way. On this side, I've obviously taken the bolts out here, here, and here. One is for your exhaust. Again, you want to pop this loose. I just lay it down. I don't really take it off all the way because, like I said, you can see how movable it is. And at this point, you're going to want to make sure you get everything that's might get caught up as this thing moves back off, but there's really nothing there to get caught up. You just got to make sure it's at the right angle and when you pop it off. So I'll get this off real quick and we'll get to the next step. There is a temperature sensor right here connected to the air box. I shouldn't say a temperature sensor, but your mass airflow sensor is right there, so you want to make sure you get that unplugged. And then go up top here, and then I unplugged the IX sensor. Make sure, because when I would be able to pull it back, I just don't want it to break or get caught up on anything. Alright, so a little update on this little project. The bolts are seized at the bottom of the swing arm, bottom of the frame, so I can't get the top part off. So I'm going to try. I've already got the plate off, took a little pair of pliers, got it off. I got the one cable loose already. Once you get the cables loose, like slack in them, they literally fall right off. It's just a matter of trying to weasel the holder back into the hole and then running the cables back up. So with that being said, like I said, I've got that done. Getting ready to break these down. Usually it's probably a good point to probably take these loose first before doing this. That way you got all the slack you need in the world. But where I got a little discombobulated where this wouldn't come off, so we had to jump to plan B, which is not get rid of it, but dope on the plan C, because plan B is just anyway. All right, let's get back to it. All right, I've got them both fished out of there. There's your ends. Now basically just got to pull them out. Usually I do it one at a time because they are nutted on one end. Sometimes they do get caught up in the electrical and you don't want to rip the electrical out. So with that being said, one at a time. Boom. Now 2 8mm, bust those loose and they're off. What I'll do right now is I'll actually go ahead and install the new ones so they're nice and loose without having to run them up here yet, and then I'll go back to doing this part. Also, another good word of advice is always check. I remember where these come off because I've done them so many times, but you see that this one has got a nut on it and this one don't. Well, if you look at yours, other ends also, they are built the same way. One's got nuts on it, the other one does not. One is your pull and one is a return. Now the one with the nut on it is your pull. So obviously up here, same exact setup. Got one with a nut, one without. That's your return, this is your pull. This is where you get your adjustment for your throttle and your idle if your idle's not working correctly. So you always want to make sure that you got that set up correct. And you always want to make sure you remember where it comes off of front to back, because it's obviously not going to work right if you don't. I know it's really hard to see, but I've got the first one already on. Like I said, you get it on there and then you just get your nuts tight so there's no slack in them. That way you can adjust them when you get up there. So that's the first one. Gonna go for the second one and I'll be right back. Alright, now that I got both of them on, now this one here, like I said, is your pull. It's not adjusted. I got it bottomed out all the way, and you're going to do the same thing on the top. You're going to bottom it all the way until we get everything back together, obviously, and then we get the bike fired up and check our idle. Alright, now that I've got both cables on, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the subframe. Go ahead and put the plastics back on. Go ahead and put all these bolts back in, bring it back up. I never got it popped off, which is a good thing because sometimes they're a pain in the ass to get back on. So make sure you hook up all your electrical. I did take the computer out because it's in the way a little bit, just the wiring. So pop that back in. Your mass airflow sensor, I already got the IX sensor plugged in. I literally ran the cables the same exact way that they were with these old cables. Like I said, this is just my process I do. I got the new ones right here. All the ones are still hooked up because I want to make sure I get these in the right spots. So let's go ahead and hook up the subframe again and get it back to it. And always make sure you go over these bolts with a ratchet. I use an impact to put them in, but I always go back over them with a ratchet because, you know, you sit on this part. This is everything that holds all your weight, so you want to make sure all your bolts are tight. Make sure everything, all your sensors and everything are all back to where they need to be. Make sure all your hoses, all that stuff is back up here. I got to pull a couple back up that I moved out of the way. So with that being said, we're going to finish hooking up a little bit of hoses right here, put the tank back on, and then get our cables on up there, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Alright, once you get the 2 8mm out, this thing will pretty much fall apart. And I'll go ahead and pull it completely off, and let's bring it over here to the bench and see if we can get it apart. Alright, once you get it off there, it literally just pops off. You don't want to spin. And get your cables out. Get your cables out. And that's that. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to back these out. Unscrew these all the way to get these off. Alright, once you get it apart, there is a splitter in there. You want to make sure that this goes back in properly. It only really goes in one way. But you want to make sure when you do put it in that your wires are in that valley when you insert it. Let's get it back together. Alright, so I got you set up here. You'll see, watch me knock these bad boys out. Alright, like I was saying before, when you take it off, you want to make sure that you have one that's adjusted is your throttle, your pull. So you see how they're a little bit different lengths? So you make sure that's correct. So, I'm going to start with this piece first. Like I said, you want to make sure that you got the divider in there. Usually what I'll do is, I'll probably go ahead and screw in first before I put the divider in. Make sure. And usually what I'll do also, even though I've done this 1,000 times, put it together empty, kind of mock it up, make sure I know what side is going on, and screw it in. And you want to bottom these out. You get it, sometimes it is a mother to get it on. Alright, now the divider. You know, when I call this a divider, really it's just a guide. Keeps your cables intact, which sometimes is a pain in the ass to get on. Just to double check myself, make sure it's in there. Yes and yes. Divider's also in place. And then once you get the divider in there, it'll pretty much snap together. And once you hear that snapping noise, you're good to go. Now comes the tricky part. And what I like to do, I like to put them together on the bars. That way you get all the slack out of it and they kind of go back together like they're supposed to. Alright, got both my cables on. I'm going to go ahead and set my throttle tube to where I need it. just to kind of, you don't want to pull it real tight. I just kind of snug it. That way it kind of gives me a feel of what I got going on. And that right there already feels fantastic. And then you're going to go to your final adjustments on these nuts here. Now, I've left that one on the bottom completely bottomed out. Because that way, once you run out of your adjustment here, you can always bottom this one out, pull the slack out of that one, and actually have maybe some extra play here. Typically, when it gets to that point, it's too late. You're going to need another throttle cable. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Real quick, simple way to install some throttle cables on a Honda. Haven't used my phone because my cameras were dead, so sorry about the video, but I know it's not like real intensive, but it just gives you a basic idea of what you got to do. And if you guys have any questions, hit me up, email me, message me on this video. I'll be glad to help you, send you a video. Shit, I'll go over with you why we're doing it. Doesn't matter. All right, guys, peace out. Thanks for watching. We're hanging with Henry today in the man cave on another Honda. Gotta love them Hondas.